Hi guys, I'm so sorry I completely forgot to film an intro, but basically alongside my step-by-step guide on how to choose a perfect medical school for you and the one you're most likely to get into, I asked you guys on Instagram to send me any questions you might have about how I chose my medical school, why I didn't apply to Oxbridge, my experience at University of Nottingham Medical School, and yeah, this is that Q&A where I answer those questions. Please do make sure to follow my Instagram so that you can get involved in future Q&As, and yeah, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, get in touch with me. A lot of work goes into making these videos, a lot of editing. Please enjoy and I'll see you in the next one. The first question is pros and cons of Nottingham Medical School and of City. The pros: Nottingham Medical School is in the hospital, so that can be really rewarding, motivating to be able to walk through on your way to your lessons. It really feels like it's getting you in the mindset of being a doctor. Second pro, the Queen's Medical Centre, which is where you're based, is one of the biggest hospitals in the UK, so you have essentially every single specialty there. So when it comes to your clinical years, you'll be exposed to a large range of cases. 3, it's a really big city, which means that you do have a really good nightlife. You do have a lot of popular restaurants. You have things like GBK, Pizza Express, Wagamama's, etc. Another pro is that it's an integrated course, which is excellent because you get the solid scientific foundation at the same time as being able to think clinically. So having your PBL seminars, having to think about medical case studies, and also learning clinical skills and meeting patients early on. And 5, really amazing facilities. When I tell you that University of Nottingham campus is one of the most beautiful campuses I have ever seen, I'm going to insert some photos here so you can see. Highlights of your first year: definitely going to see neurosurgery in theatre, to be able to dress up in scrubs, to be able to see someone's brain and see the surgeon stitch up a patient in your first year, literally within 4 months of being at medical school, is something so rewarding, and it just really motivates you to keep going with your studies. 2, joining a psychiatry society and being teamed up with a consultant, which is going to be essentially mentoring me to apply to psychiatry in the future. I can't wait to be able to shadow him once this coronavirus situation finishes. And 3, I'd say, is being able to live in a flat with friends, have a party there before going out to a nightclub. I love that. What is the workload like? Could you break down your average week for us? Of course. So every week has sort of a similar structure. At least this is for first year. Bear in mind that things do change as you progress in your medical course at the University of Nottingham. For example, second year, I know the workload increases, and third, fourth, fifth year, it is predominantly clinical placements, either in the hospital or GP setting. But for first year, every week you have 2 to 3 days which are quite intensive. So I'm talking about 10 to 4. And then 2 days which will be either a half day or you'll have nothing. And also every week you'll have a dissection which lasts 3 hours, and you may have a split class, which is basically where you have half the year group and you're all answering a set of questions, or you'll be learning a clinical skill, for example how to use your stethoscope, or a smaller seminar group which is about 8 people where you're talking about medical ethics or talking about a patient case study. So I've got an example week which I think is a good representation of what my week looks like when I don't have a clinical placement such as a hospital or a GP, which is about twice a term. So on the Monday, as you can see, I have 3 lectures from 9 to 12 back to back. From 1 to 4 I have the dissection of the axilla, the shoulder, the mammary gland and lymphatics, and that's for 3 hours. So for that day I'm essentially at school for 9 to 4. On Tuesday I only have one thing, which is a split class where we do digital brain tumour genomes and bioinformatics from 2 to 4. Wednesday I don't have anything. Thursday I essentially am at school from 9 to 5 and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lectures, which is a lot. On Friday I have a split class from 10 to 1 where we're just reviewing the anatomy of the thorax and the neck, and then I have 2 lectures from 1 to 4. So that is a typical week at the University of Nottingham. How do you find lectures? Are they a good way of learning? What other universities did you apply to and why did you get offers? Just to sum up, I applied to the University of Exeter, University of Nottingham, University of Birmingham, University of Bristol. I got into Exeter because I had really high predicted grades. I got into the University of Nottingham because I had really high predicted grades. I had good GCSEs and my personal statement was quite good. And the reason I got offers from both of them is because my interview was strong. The reason I didn't get into the University of Bristol is because my UCAT was simply too low and they had a threshold, and I didn't get into the University of Birmingham because my UCAT pulled down the rest of my application. Is the University of Nottingham good at making provision for extracurricular activities and downtime? Every Wednesday, every single student in University of Nottingham has a half day regardless. This means that there's at least one day a week where you're only working till 12 p.m. The reason the University of Nottingham does this is that you can use that half a day to do sports or to do societies. So a lot of societies and sports will put their sessions on that half a day. So the University of Nottingham has an active policy that enables you to do hobbies and societies, especially when you have a really intensive course such as medicine. And there are lots of medic sports, so you don't just do football, you have medics football, which sort of caters around the medics timetable. However, it's mostly the mainstream sports, so for example you couldn't do something like lacrosse or rowing with the medics, but this is another provision that they have. And also, as I've spoken about in my Q&A before, so my experience so far, obviously I don't know how demanding it gets, is that you do have time to get involved in hobbies, to have a social life, to get involved in things that are extracurricular. What's challenging is always trying to be productive. The next question, how have you unwinded and managed stress? So as I said, in the first term, I found having so many lectures which I didn't understand really daunting, and I fell hugely behind. When I tell you, once I had 35 lectures overdue, at the same time as having current lectures happening. So what I did is, 1, make a list of everything you have to do. This way it's not all in your brain. This way you're not like, oh, I have that to do, I have that to do, I have that to do. It's all on a page and you're like, right, how am I going to tackle this? 2, do not work 24/7. Do not be like, right, I need to do constant all-nighters to catch up. What that will do is it will make you fatigued. It will probably make you burn out, and then you'll have to take a week off, which, think about how much more you'll have to do after that. What you want to do is have a routine. Get up at 8 a.m. each day, have breakfast, go to the library, have lunch, work, then go to the gym, then have time to unwind, then go to sleep early to get up early again. That way you're constantly able to be productive because you're not constantly working. You're doing things like physical activity. You're having time to unwind, so you're not burning out. And step 3 is, don't be scared to reach out for help. So speak to your personal tutor or your form tutor if you're at school and tell them you are struggling, because that way they're notified and they can help you so that it doesn't get to a point where it becomes really critical, and let's say it starts affecting your mental health. And reaching out for help doesn't just have to be from someone of authority. Like when I was getting really stressed, I'd speak to my flatmate and she'd basically be like, oh, it's fine, like you can easily get that done, you know, we'll just go to the library. And it kind of makes you just think, you're right, it's not the end of the world, I can do this. So yeah, 3 things: make a list, have a routine, and don't burn yourself out, and reach out. And to unwind, I just love to watch TV, edit YouTube videos, or like pamper myself, so like wash my hair, do a face mask, something like that. And obviously go clubbing. Do third years struggle with workload due to the intercalation? I am really not looking forward to third year because, as you know, the course is 5 years instead of 6 years because you do your intercalation in half a year in third year. So it's very stressful to be able to do your dissertation in only 6 months. I have heard it's a really intensive year. Would you recommend your medical school? Yes, I would definitely recommend it. You get really good early clinical experience, which is frankly unheard of. You get dissections, which is such a good way for learning anatomy, much more than looking at a 2D textbook. 3, it's an integrated course, meaning you get the best of both worlds. And 4, it's a really big uni, really big medical school, which means you get a really diverse learning experience. Did you get a high UCAT score to get into Notts? As you guys know, I didn't do that great on my UCAT, but because Nottingham look at your application holistically, they took into account my high predicted grades, my high GCSEs, and my personal statement and interview performance. So if you have a shaky section in your application, such as your UCAT, I would really recommend Nottingham because they look at your application holistically. However, do double check that with the website because things may have changed. Considering you had such a strong application, why didn't you apply to Oxbridge? So now I'm going to tell you guys why I had to make the really difficult decision to not apply to Oxbridge and why I maybe regress it. Basically, in all my life, I have worked so hard to achieve everything that I could. despite the fact that I do not come from a well-off background, despite the fact that no one in my family is a doctor or has any sort of scientific background. And I always felt that out of all my achievements, that getting into Oxbridge would be the hallmark of all achievements. It would be the biggest thing that I could achieve in my lifetime. And so to not apply really made me feel like that's it. I sort of resided myself to not being mediocre, but just not achieving everything that I could. The reason I didn't apply to Oxbridge is because, firstly, I didn't like the look of the course. I couldn't bear to be 3 years without any sort of clinical experience. In my first term at uni, I really struggled only having lectures day in and out that were only about science. And I really struggled. I fell massively behind on my work because I felt like I wasn't studying what I wanted to study. I want to study a subject where I have human interaction, where I'm learning about how to help people, not just learning from a textbook. So to think that I would have had to have dealt with 3 years of that is something that I found really daunting. However, having said that, there is a small part of me that does believe that I didn't apply because I felt like I wasn't good enough. When I compared myself to the girls in my year that did apply to Oxbridge, I always thought I wasn't as clever. And I think that insecurity got the better of me. I always thought I was someone that could achieve everything, but I almost didn't want to apply just in case I couldn't get in, because I would have then thought, well, maybe you're not as clever, maybe you're not as hardworking as you think you are. Sometimes I feel like I'm convincing myself that I didn't apply because I didn't like the course, when in reality it's just because I was too insecure to apply. But having said that, I am happy with my choice of medical school. Are there a good few black people in the University of Nottingham medical course? The University of Nottingham medical course has a lot of people of colour. The majority of students are from Southeast Asia. With black people, no, there isn't a significant proportion of black people on my course. I can think of maybe in my cohort of about 350, there is perhaps no more than 20. This isn't good, but however, I think the fact that there aren't that many black people on the course doesn't start with the University of Nottingham admissions process, it starts before that. It's why aren't enough black people applying to medicine? And not enough is being done to promote courses like medicine to people of colour. Is it better to go to a uni that offers clinical placements from first year? Definitely. Because it will motivate you, it won't feel like you're just doing a science degree, it will remind you of what you're working towards and the job you're working towards. And your opinion on University of Nottingham, I've said it, I love it, I'd really recommend it if you want a good social, extracurricular balance alongside an academic balance, if you want early clinical experience, if you want to be in a big city with a campus experience where you have all your facilities around you, and if you want to be on quite a diverse course.